For our warm-up, we're going to multiply the following polynomials. First thing we need to do is either use the box method or distribute. So we do x times 2x, which gives me 2x squared. X times negative 3 will give me negative 3x. 4 times 2x gives me positive 8x. And 4 times negative 3 gives me negative 12. We combine our like terms. So our final answer for this first one will be 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. Again, distribute or box method, 5x times x gives me 5x squared. 5x times negative 2 gives me negative 10x. 3 times x gives me 3x. 3 times negative 2, negative 6. We're going to combine like terms. Our final answer for number 2, 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. We're doing the exact same thing for number 3. We get 3x squared plus 9x minus x minus 3. Combine our like terms. 3x squared plus 8x minus 3. 4x times 3x is going to give me 12x squared. 4x times 2x gives me 8x. Negative 5 times 3x, negative 15x. Negative 5 times 2, negative 10. Combine like terms. 12x squared minus 7x minus 10. So this was just a quick review on how to multiply polynomials. What we're going to do now is we're going to start with a quadratic equation, and then we're going to factor it. So I'm going to give you the end, for instance, 12x squared minus 7x minus 10, and then we're going to work backwards in order to find the two factors, 4x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. So one way is we work backwards from our box method. We take our answer, 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. We're going to put that on the inside. Now we do need to remember that the 7x is going to come from where we peanut the middle. So when I add two things together, it's going to give me 7x. But I do know that this last place is 3. This is also telling me that one of my factors is x plus 3. So I'm going to put it on the outside of the box. Now we're just going to work backwards. It's like a puzzle. What do I need to multiply x by in order to make it 2x squared? I need to multiply that by a 2x. Well, then we can fill in these pieces. 2x times 3 is going to give me 6x. And then 3 times what is going to equal 3? That's only an option of a positive 1. So then we have 1x here. And we can say that, yes, x plus 6x is equal to 7x. So the other factor that I would multiply by is 2x plus 1. We're going to set up the next problem the exact same way. My final answer is the 5x squared. When I add my two pieces in the middle here, it is going to give me 8x. And then we get plus 3. Remember, we add to find these two pieces. It is giving me one of the factors, so x plus 1. And now we just need to fill in what we know. What do I need to multiply x by to make it 5x squared? And that's going to be 5x. Well, 5x times 1 is going to give me 5x. And then I'm going to ask myself, 1 times what is going to equal 3? That's going to be 3. 3 times x is 3x. Is it true that 3x plus 5x is equal to 8x? Yes, it is. So the other factor in this case will be 5x plus 3. These are the two things, 5x plus 3 and x plus 1, that multiply together to give me 5x squared plus 8x plus 3. Now for the next one, we factor the trinomial. We have 3x squared. We know that when I add these two pieces together, it's going to equal negative 14x. And then we have negative 5. Well, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because these are the only pieces that I'm given. So I don't know one of the factors. I can't work this puzzle backwards. Now, I could start plugging values in, but this could take me a long time because I'm trying to get to negative 5 and negative 14x. And there's a lot of possibilities there. So what we're going to do is go ahead and flip to the next page. And we're going to do what we call the bottoms up method here. So you will be given, for the first couple of tries, this bottoms up method. So we're going to fill in the pieces of this big X in order to factor the problem. At the top of the X is going to be A times C. Remember, these are standard form, so our first step anytime that we have standard form is to list out our A, B, and C values. So if I'm looking at number 5, A is 6, B is 1, C is negative 2. So at the top of our factor is going to be A times C, 6 times negative 2. At the bottom of our factor will be our B value, which is 1. And then we're going to look for two numbers that multiply to give me the top and add to give me the bottom, and they need to be divided by our A value, which is 6. So when I say factor, that means that I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to give me the top, and they add to give me the bottom. It's got to be a puzzle that always works together. It's got to do both. So 6 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 12. If you're having trouble thinking about this, we can make a list. So on the fact that I know that it's negative 12, I can make a list of my factors, negative 1 and 12, negative 2 and 6, negative 3 and 4, and then I could go and do the other side, negative 4 and 3, negative 6 and 2, negative 1 and, negative 12 and 1. So what I need to do is, out of this list of numbers that I just found, which ones will add up to be positive 1? So I know it's not negative 1 and 12. I know it's not negative 2 and 6. Negative 3 plus 4 is going to give me positive 1. It doesn't matter which side I put these two things on. It's completely up to you. But now, when we get ready to write our answer, we have to use something called the swing method. So these are going to help me write my factors. First thing we have to do with the swing method is reduce the factors if possible. So you definitely want to write this down. You ask yourself, is it possible to reduce negative 3 over 6? Yes, it is, and it becomes negative 1 over 2. Is it possible to reduce 4 over 6? Yes, 2 will go into both of those. So that becomes 2 over 3. So step 1, reduce the factors if possible. Step 2, the denominator becomes the coefficient of the x. So it means it's going with the x. And the numerator becomes the constant. So when I get ready to write my factors in my final answer, you take the denominator. Let's start with negative 1/2. 2 is in the denominator, so it goes with the x. And my numerator becomes the constant. So the 2 swings backwards to go with the x, while the negative 1 swings forward to become the constant. So one of my factors is 2x minus 1. The other factor, 3, is in my denominator, so it swings back to go with my x, while the numerator swings forward to become my constant. So when I'm factoring the trinomial 6x squared plus x minus 2, my final answer will be 2x minus 1 times 3x plus 2. If I'm factoring the trinomial 10x squared plus 17x plus 3, the first step that I'm going to want to do here is, just like always, list my A, B, and C values. So A will equal 10, B will equal 17, C will equal 3. Next step is to fill in our big X, our bottoms up. So A times C goes on the top, 10 times 3. B value goes on the bottom, 17. And then we're dividing both of our factors by our A value. So 10 times 3 is going to give me 30. Now I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply together that equal 30, but when I multiply those same two numbers together, they're going to add up to be 17. So we have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. 4 won't go. 5 will, so it'll be 5 and 6. 7 won't go. 8 won't go. So this is my complete factor list. Out of my list that's here, which two numbers add up to be 17? That's 2 and 15. And then for our final answer, we just need to work on the swing method. 2 over 10 can be reduced to 1 over 5. 15 over 10 can be reduced to 3 over 2. Then we practice our swing method. 5 swings back to go with the x, 5x. The 1 swings forward to become the constant. The other factor, 2 is going to swing back to go with the x, while my 3 swings forward to become the constant. So my final answer for this one, 5x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. Number 7, you want to start by listing your a, b, and c values. A is equal to 4, b is equal to -7, c is equal to 3. So before we had two factors, we multiplied them together to give us the standard form trinomial. Now I'm given the standard form trinomial of a quadratic, and I'm asked to find the factors. So I'm just being able to work both backwards and forwards on how to solve these. We're going to fill in our x. A times c at the top, so 4 times 3 goes in the top. My b value goes in the bottom. Each factor is being divided by 4. So then we need to make a list. What are my factors of 12 that add up to be -7? We have to be careful here. I'm not going to make a list of full positive numbers, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, because those add up to be positive numbers. We have to think about another way to get a positive answer, and that is by having two negatives. Remember, a negative times a negative is also a positive. So I've got -1 times -12, -2 times -6, -3 times -4. And that's my complete factor list for 12. So out of this list, which ones are going to be added to equal -7? That's going to be -3 and -4. Practice our swing method. Can -3/4 be reduced? No, it cannot. I'm just going to rewrite it so I don't forget. -4 over 4 can be reduced to -1 over 1. We apply the swing method. 4 goes back, swings back to be the coefficient of the x, while the -3 swings forward to be my constant. Now we use the reduced version of the other side as well. 1 is going to swing back to be the coefficient of x, while -1 swings forward to be my constant. So what you need to do at this point is pause the video and try these next few problems. When you unpause the video, you will have the answers, so make sure that you take a second right now and pause your video. All right, hopefully you've worked all these out, and you can come back and check your work. I've set it up for us. You do not have to make an extensive list of all your factors like I did on all of these. If you know right away that you're going to pick 6 and -15 for number 8, then you don't have to make the list. The list is only there if you're having trouble thinking about which two numbers do you multiply together to get the top, and do you add together to get the bottom. So these are just here to help you. Again, you don't have to make this list if you know the numbers right off the top of your head. Let's flip to the next page. So what's going to happen if our a value is equal to 1? Well, we do the exact same process that we've had each time. So I list a is equal to 1, b is equal to 8, c is equal to 15. We're going to put it into our big X. So we have 1 times 15 at the top, 8 at the bottom, and now we're going to divide our factors by 1. So if you need to make your list of factors, you can totally do that. So we've got 1 and 15, we've got 3 and 5, and that's going to be it. Our factors are 3 and 5. Now when we get ready to do our swing method here, because our denominator is 1, we don't have to worry about being able to reduce our fractions. We can just go through and write these as we see them. So it'll be 1x plus 3. We still swing method, you just don't have to reduce. and 1x plus 5. So when our a is equal to 1, our life actually gets a little bit easier because I don't have to worry about quite as many steps. We're going to do 2 and 3 together, and then you're going to pause the video and work on 4 through 7. So yet again, list your values. A is equal to 1, B is equal to -8, C is equal to 7. What you're going to do is you are going to put it into the x. So 1 times 7 goes at the top, -8 at the bottom, divide each factor by 1. So numbers that will multiply together to give me 7 but add up to be -8, that's going to be -1 and -7. It's the only factors because 7 is a prime number. So when I write my factors, it'll be x minus 1 and x minus 7. List your a, b, and c. A is equal to 1. B is equal to -2. C is equal to -15. We're going to put those into the bottoms up. So 1 times -15 at the top, -2 at the bottom, divide each factor by 1. When we look for our factors, we're going to have 1 and -15, 3 and -5. And so 3 and -5 are going to be the factors that I'm looking for. Swing method, we don't have to worry about reducing. It becomes x plus 3 and x minus 5. This is where you're going to pause the video and do 4 through 7 on your own. There is an answer key to 4 through 7 that's also posted in Canvas. Please make sure you check your work there. Now that we know how to factor, we can use the factors in order to solve our quadratic equations. All we're going to do to solve from factor form is set each one equal to 0 and then solve for x. Our answers when we solve this are going to be x equals something and x equals something else. The degree of our quadratic equation is going to be 2. Remember, degree means highest exponent, meaning that we can have 0, 1, or 2 solutions. So let's look at some of these examples. All of these things are already factored for us, so all we have to do is take the factor and set it equal to 0. Each one is going to be equal to 0. Then we simply solve for x. So our 2 answers for this first one will be x equals 6 and x equals -9. Those are my 2 solutions to the problem. For the next one, x minus 3 is equal to 0. X plus 4 is equal to 0. The first step is to set the 2 factors equal to 0. The next step is to solve. So get x by itself. My answers will be x is equal to 3 and x is equal to -4. Those are my 2 solutions. Nothing's going to change if I have more in my factors. It just means it's a 2-step solving problem. So first step for this one is I'm going to subtract 1 from each side, where I get 2x is equal to -1. Then I divide each side by 2. So one of my solutions is x is equal to -1/2. For the other one, all I have to do is add 5 to each side. So x is equal to 5. Those are my 2 solutions. Okay, same thing here. X is just not in parentheses. It's still a factor. I can put it in parentheses. And then we have x minus 6 is equal to 0. Well, this one is already solved for us. X is equal to 0. For this one, all we have to do is add 6. So x will be equal to 6. For these next 3 problems, you're going to factor and solve. So you're going to use the bottoms up method, and you're going to solve each of these. You're going to want to check the answer key for each one. So when it says to factor and solve, remember that factor means you're using bottoms up. List out your A, B, C. So A equals, B equals, C equals. You use your bottoms up to find your 2 factors. And then to solve, you're going to set each factor equal to 0. Okay? So 1 through the next page is going to be the rest of your classwork. Wrong direction. You've got 1 through number 12 here. And please do not forget that you have homework that